Hi guys, hope you're all doing well. I have enough of a voice to talk today, so I'm going to try to get this out. I've been dragging my heels on it for a while and it's just weighing me down, and I want to get it out so that I can move on to the funner things that I wanted to work on. I'm going to do my very best to be sensitive to the nature of this topic and the people involved. Since they're my family, of course, I want to be sensitive to them, but even if they weren't, I just want to be careful with this. So this is in regard to human trafficking, and a lot of people might not really understand how this winds up happening. And I'm not saying that I fully understand it by any means, but I know what my family went through, and I just wanted to share it so that folks can, increase their understanding. In the instance of my family, what happened was my grandma met and married the love of her life, and he was a full-blooded Native American, but his Americanized name is William Oliver, and he was a great man from a great family and full of love and hope and promise. And he got this really awesome job working for the power company. And that really awesome job wound up taking his life. He was a lineman and he was electrocuted on the job. And it changed the history and course of my family's future forever when he passed away. So my grandma became a widow of the love of her life, and she had 2 children by him, my mom and her older brother Jacob, and she really struggled dealing with it. She started going to the bars and drinking a lot, and she met a man named Burl who wined her and dined her and wooed her and married her, and then moved her to another place where she had no contact with anybody, and she was far off, like physically, geographically far away from anything or anybody, and the nearest neighbor was a mile away. Once she was in that position, my grandma told me the day that they got there was the first day he ever beat her. And he beat her really badly. And then shortly thereafter, he started raping her and the kids too. My mom was 2 the first time it happened to her. She said she remembers every detail. It's a really difficult thing to talk about because of the nature of it. And when you're talking about young people, little young people like that, it adds an extra level of tragedy, I guess. Anyways, so what Burl would do is he was connected to people in the town that they lived near, and he would go and make deals with people. They would come back to his house, and he would allow them for trade of various sorts to engage in sexual activity with either my grandmother, my uncles, or my mom. And prior to them coming, they were instructed on what was expected of them as far as their performance, and if they fell short, they suffered horrifying consequences that were even worse than what they were having to do. My mom one time underperformed, and her consequence was being held in a pond of water by her ankles until she stopped moving. My grandma was able to resuscitate her. It was a close call, though. My uncle was tied to a tree for 3 days and beaten with a what do you call it, a willow stalk. He was striped pretty good. With no food or water except for what my mom could sneak out to him. Those are some examples of the kinds of consequences that they faced if they didn't perform the way that they were supposed to. And during that time, he would be in another room taking pictures and watching. So the acts that they were forced to engage in grew in perversion, however you say that, in the depth of how horrifying they were as time went on. So that being said, some different things that I think about when I go back and look at this for my family is the ripple effect consequences. He died of a heart attack in his house. Not soon enough, probably, for the people that were involved. My grandmother carried guilt like you cannot even imagine because of what her children had to endure because of her choices. And thank goodness that she was able to find forgiveness for herself before she died. She was also able to come to Christ before she died. And she and I were able to have some conversations that were really incredible. And I'm sure she didn't even realize how relevant and important they were until, well, she may have never. I'm just now learning. So it's pretty cool. Anyways, my mom was able to forgive her oppressor to some degree. She is definitely hoping for a just God. And I think she's knowing for a just God. Yeah. Anyways, I just wanted to show you how I found this in Scripture. And it's a parable. It's a parable, but it's also something that it'll make sense. After he died, their lives didn't just instantly get simple. There were the ripple effect consequences that were faced, and they go pretty far and wide. When my grandma passed, I always wondered, what would she say when she passed? When you're meeting your maker, and I'm sure she felt like she carried a cross that she didn't opt in for, but she still carried it. And this takes me to the book of Luke, and in verse 18, not verse 18, chapter 18, it says this in my Bible. And he spake a parable unto them to this end, that men ought always pray and not to faint, saying, there was in a city a judge which feared not God, neither regarded man. And there was a widow in that city, and she came unto him, saying, avenge me of mine adversary. And he would not for a while. But afterward he said within himself, Though I fear not God, nor regard man, yet because this widow troubleth me, I will avenge her, lest by her continual coming she will weary me. And the Lord said, Hear what the unjust judge saith. And shall not God avenge his own elect, which cry day and night unto him, though he bear long with them? I tell you that he will avenge them speedily. Nevertheless, when the Son of Man cometh, and shall he find faith on the earth? And he spake this parable unto certain which trusted in themselves that they were righteous, and despised others. Okay. So even though that's in a parable, it fits. It fits on multiple levels. And it provides comfort to some people that have not really known, like, how do I get over this? This hurts so much, you know. It hurt so much that my grandma thought about taking her own life. She was telling me that she was in the washroom and there was a rifle there and it was loaded, and it took everything that she had not to shoot herself. And me being me, I'm like, why didn't you just pick it up and shoot him? Your nearest neighbor is a mile away. Bury him. But that's me. She didn't, I guess that thought didn't cross her mind. I don't know. Anyway, so that's kind of how Scripture can relate to your life. And I know that not everybody has had my life. And that wasn't my life. That was my grandma's life. And my mom's life. And that did lead to having a mom that was a victim of sex trafficking. So in this same aspect, it gives me a way to look at this particular instance of, you know, horrible things that happen in the world and go, you know, not once did anybody in my family ever blame God for this. They saw that it was a sickness of this man. He was sick, and the people that came and did business with him were sick. Hopelessly, disgustingly, perverted, and incurably sick. But that won't go unavenged. And luckily, my grandma gave God the vengeance and didn't take it on for herself, even though she might have been justified in doing so. She chose to save that for him. Anyways, I'm gonna let this one stay here, and maybe there's a few other things, but they don't directly relate to this. And this one, I just want to kind of get it out and get it off of me and let it go. So that's the example. And lately, when I've been reading Scripture, that's how it's working. I can relate it to almost every memory that I have. I can relate it to Scripture, and it's pretty cool. And I don't know. It's pretty cool. I love you guys. I hope you're all doing really well, and have a great day. Talk to you real soon.